grain salt. Overall, these 3 shows get 5 bananas from the NoMoreStinkyMonkeys.com website. I guess 3 times is a charm. For the third time in the last 6 months, I hiked over to B.B. King's in New York's Times Square to watch Tramps Like Us, a Bruce Springsteen tribute band. I'm a huge fan of another tribute band called Bruce and the USA from Las Vegas, but I read a lot of great things about Tramps Like Us from an authentic source as the people of E Street Radio on Sirius Satellite. But that first time I mostly went to see Tramps because of a novel approach they were taking to their February show. They were going to recreate an entire classic Bruce concert, in this case the 1978 New Jersey Capitol Theater show, recorded live on the radio. I've heard clips from this show, but never the whole thing, so I was interested in hearing Tramps as well as hearing the show itself. And boy, was I blown away. From people standing around me at the bar, I heard that the band was playing each version of Bruce's songs perfectly, note for note, from the original concert, and that included these long solos that Bruce doesn't really play anymore. Well, not really solos, but long instrumental sections of songs that begin, end, or break in the middle of hits. Like the intro to Prove It All Night that has you gasping for air before the first words come out of the singer's mouth. Bruce's guitar playing is not so great now, but he was hailed for his guitar work in the 70s, and this Mark Solari may even exceed that for Tramps. At one point, they played Backstreets, and in the middle mixed in Drive All Night, which wouldn't come out on the river until 2 years later. And what a great medley. Tramps Like Us is a very strange tribute band. Nobody in the band looks anything like the members of the E Street Band, especially Bruce Springsteen, which is very odd. With other tribute bands, at least the lead singer looks something like his counterpart, and the lead singer, Mark Solari, doesn't even sing like Bruce. He sings with power and energy and has a damn good voice, but you have to give him credit because he doesn't strain to sound like Bruce. He just puts the same emphasis on all the right notes. People have told me that the reason that tribute bands like Tramps are allowed to be so successful is that they show the original band that they are indeed putting their own spin on the music. But the band are not just skilled mimics, but incredibly talented musicians in their own right. They only have 5 players. Their best and most energetic member has to be saxophonist Brian Bo Ogden, who triples as a backup guitarist, singer, and keyboard player. And with lead singer Solari playing the only guitar, he's not able to just grab a mic and run around the stage. He doesn't have to. All the energy he needs is propelled by the mighty drummer, Rudy Feinauer, and the energy drawn from the crowd as they dance and roll to one classic Bruce song after another. They not only have the chops of the E Street Band, they also have that insatiable desire to stay on stage until the audience begs for mercy. That first show in February, the band played for 3 hours and 40 minutes, with very few ballads to slow the tempo. In fact, I'd say about a third of the audience had gone home before they were done, exhausted on that cold Thursday night. My hands were swollen from clapping, my voice was shot from screaming and singing along, and my feet and legs were sore and stiff from standing and dancing that whole time. And I'm just going to say it, E Street's mighty Max Weinberg has slowed down noticeably, and I've called for his replacement more than once. Certain songs on stage are sluggish now because he can't keep that fast beat anymore. Because of that, Tramps' Rudy Feinauer is a younger, more vibrant drummer, and thus makes certain Bruce songs sound even better in concert. Particularly The Devil in the Blue Dress medley and Rosalita. When Mark Solari screams, "Play it faster!" during Rosalita at the 3-hour mark of the show, the band seems to turn into a high-speed locomotive ready to run down the audience. I thought my heart was going to rip out of my chest. As for the 1978 recreation, I could see why everyone goes so nuts for that show. It is obvious as a performer and band that Bruce and E Street were in their prime at that time, like a great baseball pitcher who can't miss the strike zone. Bruce was on a mission then to turn from a critic's darling into a bona fide rock star, and this show helped propel him in that direction. And Tramps Like Us captures all of that in their performance. They did it again on May 15th when they recreated the classic 1975 Bottom Line show that Bruce did for the now defunct WNEW, right around the time Born to Run came out. I'd heard one song from it over the years, the piano solo version of Thunder Road. But I didn't realize was that Bruce hadn't become the 3-hour plus monolith he is now. He played simpler 1-hour and 45-minute shows that with less manic energy. So I was a bit disappointed watching this show within a few songs because it was a bit more muted. Not their fault, they were just a bit hamstrung by the show they chose to perform. And after it ended around the 10:30 mark, since B.B. King's told them they had to be off stage by 10:30 to make room for another 11 p.m. act. The audience felt cheated, as well as the band, who had now come to expect bigger things. That's an even bigger problem that occurred. The amplifier from Mark Solori's guitars acted up and went on the fritz. He tried valiantly to get some loud energy out of the guitar, but it wasn't happening. All his soloing after that felt like it was taking place in another room. And since his is the only guitar at most times, it was a definite buzzkill during the end of the show. But they pressed on and played a couple of requests during the end. Tramps specializes in the music of Bruce from 1973 to 1980, which admittedly is the time when he wrote 8% of his best songs. They don't play anything acoustically, and until last night, I'd never heard anything from them beyond 1984. They formed in 1990, and like many Bruce fans, they seem to enjoy his earliest stuff best. In fact, they played 3 songs at the May 15th show that I'd never even heard Bruce play before. Meeting Across the River, New York City Serenade, and Streets on Fire. Let's face it, Bruce's music used to be much more complicated on a musical level, and these talented musicians would be doing themselves and their audience a disservice if they played the simplest songs like Radio Nowhere that Bruce releases now. Finally, I saw Tramps again last night at B.B. King's, and this time the show was going on a simpler route. They were going to play the entire Born to Run and Darkness on the Edge of Town albums in their entirety, a concept I first saw in 1989 when The Who played Tommy as a whole before breaking into their usual collection of classics. While Born in Darkness rank among my favorite albums of any artist, I realized something very odd while listening to them performed on stage. The way an album is constructed song by song is an art on its own. The way one song leads into another is very important, and many times when the band plays them on stage, they play certain songs together because they fit well together. But the playlist for a concert is a different animal, has its own merits. I never like to see a band play their same set list the same way twice, but sometimes that's the way it works best for them. Kiss has been playing virtually the same show for 30 years. But there is a natural flow on stage that is not necessarily duplicated on record. Should 2 long songs like Backstreets and Jungle Land only be 4 songs apart on stage? Probably not. Should Born to Run, often your show closer, be played 5th in the night? Definitely not. Oftentimes, you'll hear Badlands coupled with 10th Avenue Freeze out in the streets for a triple play that leaves the audience breathless. But last night it fell on its own and was followed by the weak Adam Raised the Cane. One song builds momentum and gets your audience involved. When that momentum is killed by the next song, people go to the bathroom, or worse, they talk through your performance. Taking a breather with a slower song is fine. Playing 2 or 3 songs in a row that many in the audience aren't familiar with will kill the buzz in the crowd. Buzz is so important, any performer feeds off of it. But after Tramps finished the 2 albums, the band took a 15-minute break and came back like a house on fire, playing songs I haven't heard in years, like Sherry Darling and Trapped. Other songs I'd live for in a concert, like Out in the Streets and No Surrender. They took requests from the crowd with girls handing them notes on stage. 2 different girls were allowed on stage and handed maracas while they danced. One girl wrote 4 songs, A, B, C, and D, and they played all of them, dancing in the dark, and had a blast with Waiting on a Sunny Day by having Mark Solari walk through the crowd, getting the audience to sing along, and ending with Brian Boagnon sneaking onto the bar behind us, blowing his sax like a man possessed. The final song of the night was Ramrod, which is one of my favorite songs from the River album, and one rarely heard. A girl who sat through most of the show broke out in this funky Monty Python style dance that matched the rhythm perfectly. "Let's Roadhouse," Mark Solari said, and they did. When we left B.B. King's last night, I and others in the crowd had another catharsis, a revival meeting where we let our souls be overtaken by this music once again. I truly believe there is something in my DNA that draws me to Bruce's music more than any other performer. It has been a part of me since I was 12 years old, and unlike other things, it does not dissipate. Since last July 17th, I've seen a combined 6 different Bruce-type shows, 2 by Bruce in the USA, 1 by Bruce at Giant Stadium, and 3 by Tramps Like Us. I'm not obsessed, because I never listen to Bruce's records anymore, but I need this music in my bloodstream like I need water and air. Tramps Like Us comes back this February to play a recreation of Bruce's longest show in history, a 4-hour event from New Year's Eve 1980 at Nassau Coliseum. They'll be at B.B. King's again, and I'll be there. Thanks to bands like Tramps Like Us, I live one more day spiritually fulfilled. The dogs on Main Street howl because they understand that Bruce's music will lead you into the promised land. From the Predator.